Hello, folks. Today I'm going to be doing another special episode. Normally, I wouldn't do this because it would be almost like running off of a script, and I prefer actually more improvising and saying stuff that comes off my mind. But I said I was going to do a discussion about the Bayonetta 2 review that I found to be wrong with what's happening right now. And I'm going to, when I get to it, I'm going to actually be reading verbatim the entire review because of two reasons. One, I do not want anyone to actually go to this website, give them clicks, give them ad money. I want people to avoid ever going there because this was just bad. And two, I don't want to be accused of cherry picking anything, so I'm going to be reading the whole thing verbatim to show that I am not making up anything or just picking out little quotes here and there that fit with an idea I have. First, real quick, I don't like what this website did because it, to me, screams of a veiled attempt at censorship. I say that because as it sits right now, the way that review scores work in the video game industry is pretty much broken. It's too inherent on high scores or like certain Metacritic ratings that allow the companies use as justification for if they will or will not give out bonuses or full payments or this, that, and the other to companies that make video games, or even if the game itself will get a sequel. And I think that it's just bad the way it's handled, and especially the way that this reviewer did this. It is intentionally trying to harm the possible sales of a video game because of something that should not be in a review itself. This is more opinion than something that you could look at objectively. This is not the graphics, the mechanics, the story, etc. This is something that this particular reviewer did not like and found so offensive that he decided to give a significantly lower score than even, I think at one point, he acknowledges that should have been given, because towards the end, spoiler alert, he says that this is the only problem he can find with the game. It really is. And by the way, I'm talking about this one and not another one. There was another review that gave Bayonetta 2 70 or 7.0 as opposed to a 9 or a 10 like everyone else. But they had justifiable reasons. That review site thought the graphics weren't as good and the story was just a rehash of Bayonetta 1 and wasn't quite up to the level of Bayonetta 1's. Those I find absolutely acceptable reasons for why you would give a game a lower score. And if this reviewer had said that, I would have absolutely no problem with this. But at no point does he. He actually makes an effort to point out, oh yeah, it's because the tits. So let's get started and watch the fun. Bayonetta 2 review, Heaven and Hell, by Arthur Geese on October 13, 2014 at 3:01 a.m., I believe it says. I can't quite tell because they used a pink background shot for the header, and that blurs in a little bit with the text. Bayonetta 2 is unapologetically, even defiantly old school. This is a knife that cuts both ways. Developer Platinum Games has once again gone for broke, creating an action game of spectacle so big that it's occasionally incomprehensible. Bayonetta 2 is the kind of game where you might ask, seriously, why you're not allowed to strap a massive multi-bladed sight to your high heels. It's extravagant, like the golden age of Japanese action games never ended. Like the arms race just escalated on and on. It's also the kind of game that left me asking how many times and how many different ways Developer Platinum could run a camera up the main character's spread legs and cleavage. On one side of the knife is a clear action game that refines the incredible combat foundations of the original Bayonetta and avoids the lack of variety that dragged it down in the last third. On the other, the deliberate sexualization and objectification on display serves as a jarring distraction from the creativity and design smarts elsewhere. Strange things are afoot in Bayonetta 2. In pink bold. Set an indeterminate, though presumably short time after Bayonetta, Bayonetta 2 opens in what looks like New York City during Christmas, though, honestly, this doesn't matter all that much. Within minutes, Bayonetta is back to her old tricks, fighting off monstrous angelic enemies atop a fighter jet. This is not even remotely the strangest thing that happens in Bayonetta 2. There's a plot driving Bayonetta 2, theoretically, though you might be hard-pressed to explain it until most of the way through. How much you get from that narrative will likely hinge on how much you like anime staples like overwrought, overdramatic dialogue and nonsensical non-sequesters. That I don't have a problem with because that's actually honest. There is some stuff to like, though. Bayonetta gets some much-needed development as a human being who cares about things other than herself. Her motivations go beyond the apologizingly trope-y amnesia setup of the first game. It's a good look for the character. Big blue background splay picture of Bayonetta. Less positive is the same exaggerated sexualization that hung heavy around the game's last neck. I'll forgive the high heels and the exaggerated proportions. Why do you need to forgive high heels? What is wrong with a woman wearing high heels? And exaggerated proportions? Are you kidding me? Have you seen this character? She is not... Maybe a little bit. I'll throw you the benefit of the doubt. She might be a little bit exaggerated. The way you're describing it, it sounds like she is physically implausible. I have seen a lot worse. A lot worse. Trust me. If only because there's so many other things to criticize. Oh boy. Bayonetta's new outfit delivers bold new developments in revealing clothing with the introduction of diamond cutouts on the ass of her jumpsuit. So, creating what I can only refer to as an, I'm quoting now, underbutt cleavage. What? When standing in place, her shoulders are bent back to point her chest at whatever. Or maybe it's just that I've seen characters stand with different body positions. It doesn't matter if you're man or woman. Not everyone stands completely straight, vertical all the time. But even this is minor compared to the game's camera. I'm pretty sure you're going to tell us why. Which zooms in on Bayonetta's parts like they're products being sold in a commercial. Or, you know, maybe it's just typical action game, bad camera. I can think of at least a dozen action games off the top of my head that have done that all the time. There are enough gratuitous ass shots, cleavage jokes, and spread legs to fill an hours-long supercut. Once again, bad camera does not inadvertently mean sexist game. I've seen plenty of games with male leads that have done the same thing. The camera doesn't look at Bayonetta, it leers at her. Lord, give me strength. This is frequently provided as an implicit reward for doing well. Or, you know, camera doing what camera does. For anyone who didn't play the first game, here's a bit of premise. Much of Bayonetta's supernatural power is tied into her hair. Very unique mechanic. Her clothing is actually composed of this hair magic, and as she performs more powerful attacks, more of this hair magic is diverted from covering her to compensate. Put simply, Bayonetta's strongest attacks result in her clothes flying off. For more intense quick-time sequences, she'll even do a sexy pose as it flies off, with the absolute barest minimum covered. That, I will grant you, that was from the first game. I don't think it was meant as sexist or demeaning. I thought it was a unique mechanic and actually somewhat of a parody of a trope that is common in female superhero Japanese anime and manga. Bayonetta 2's prurient rewards are totally unnecessary. Again, big bold pink text. By the way, really quick side note, I love that this guy is complaining about sexist things while using pink text. Irony. It's sexist, gross pandering, and it's totally unnecessary. That would be great for an op-ed piece, not a review. Bayonetta 2 needs prurient rewards even less than the original Bayonetta did, because the on-screen chaos you can wreak through skilled play is infinitely more satisfying. So then why are you focusing on the something that's more satisfying than the something that you don't like? Bayonetta 2 has the same basic mechanics of the original. It's a character action game, meaning that it's you against enemies who can kill you quickly if you're not mindful of what's happening. Proper timing and combo use... let me try that again. Proper timing and combo use are important, but Bayonetta 2, like Bayonetta, adds a very specific, very cool wrinklage to the genre. Witch time. Big picture of screen cap of gameplay. Witch time is invoked by dodging with the right trigger just before an enemy's attack would connect. When done properly, this turns the world purple and temporarily slows down around Bayonetta, allowing her free reign to manhandle enemies. Why not woman handle? Horrible joke. Horrible joke, I know. Couldn't help myself. I apologize. Witch time is a luxury early on, but it's an obsolete necessity later. It forces the kind of considerations that other action games just don't. If you want to have a maximum advantage in Bayonetta 2, you have to put yourself in a position to get hit by an enemy, which can be extremely detrimental to your health. To do well, you have to take bigger and bigger chances. The risk makes the reward even more appealing. There's also an unforgiving, but nonetheless motivating rating system in place that assesses your performance and rewards you with currency to use at an in-game shop. It creates a feedback loop. I wanted to do better to get more stuff, to do better and get more stuff. And though Bayonetta 2's levels are full of secrets and items to pick up and use in battle, even Platinum knows that the excellent combat is the draw. Fights are hidden around each level along with pickups, and when you finish the level, you can see whether or not you've found them all. There are also golden LPs hidden around Bayonetta 2, frequently in pieces. Redeeming them at the in-game shop, the Gates of Hell, rewards you with new weapons, each of which can radically change the way Bayonetta fights. She also has weapon slots on her legs and arms, and many weapons can be used on either, or both, if you're willing to cough up the cash to buy duplicates, with very different, often surprising results. Hence my complaints about not being able to put a scythe on my feet. So actually and again, that's why I didn't point out anything about that, because that was a legitimate thing as opposed to actually a nitpick about the design of the game, which I agree with. That would be pretty cool to do that. Small picture of screen cap of gameplay. Still, you can accessorize your heels with a pair of chainsaw weapons, which turns them into murderous rocket skates. I classify that as a reasonable consolation prize. I would too, I'll give you that. That's pretty damn awesome. These systems aren't new to Bayonetta 2, but the whole package feels a lot more considered. The weapon system in particular feels more relevant than before. Combat trials encourage experimentation with different weapon combinations, which in turn lends itself to more variety in the main game than I expected in the first Bayonetta. Bayonetta 2's difficulty curve is also much less harsh, and I imagine it will feel more accessible to players with less experience in this genre. There's also time spent fighting the same massive boss monster over the course of half an hour, more time spent moving forward, which eases off to the grind that Bayonetta often became. There are even more collectibles this time around, many of which unlock challenges to be played in the new cooperative mode, though sadly this is limited to challenges alone. The sequel is also shorter, though it feels that way in part because of the reduction in retreading and overextended boss battles. Both of these are, to me, net positives. I would agree. Shorter, more polished game is better than longer, more tedious game. Wrap up. Big bold pink text. Bayonetta 2's blatant over-sexualization puts a big dent in an otherwise great game. Once again, I feel that would be a good point for an editorial, not a review. When Platinum Games is on, it's really, really on, and Bayonetta 2 is in almost any respect that counts a better game than the first, whose mechanics were already exemplary. But every time I'd feel on a roll, enjoying my time with Bayonetta 2 immensely, I'd be broken out of it by another cheap shot of TNA that you're trying to find. I would be wrecking a flock of angelic or demonic enemies, sliding in and out of which time almost at will, and then the special weapon I picked up became a literal stripper pole for Bayonetta to dance on because, well, because I guess. I'll just let that one sink in. I won't guess why the blatant over-sexualization is still there, because that's what the creator wanted. It's their game. They designed it like so, and you're harping on a more opinion point than a game design point. Often more intensely than before. But it causes an otherwise great game to require a much bigger mental compromise to enjoy. And then in little italic text, Bayonetta was reviews using a retail download code provided by Nintendo. You can find additional information about Polygon's ethics policy here, about Polygon's review, and then the score is 7.5. So this person found pretty much nothing wrong with the game itself, which under most circumstances would give it a 9 or a 9.5, but felt personally insulted by things that to him came off as sexist. So he dropped it down to a 7.5 because of that. Now, I'm not going to argue that there may be things that people would deem sexist in Bayonetta 2. I will fully acknowledge this, that some of the design choices would probably come off as offensive in certain circumstances, and some of the ways that they design the character would probably be seen as pandering. And some of her moves and techniques would probably be seen the same as pandering and possibly sexist to some people. I will not argue that point. The point I'm trying to make is that he specifically harped on that for a review. A video game review. and he decided to deduct points because he found that personally offensive. You can take away points for bad mechanics, bad story, bad camera, which if he had said that it was the camera that was bad in general, I would have perfectly understood. Action games are notorious for having bad cameras. But no, it was that the camera was leering at her. I have no words for that, I really don't. And there lies the biggest issue. You are inserting a very big opinion piece type of thing into what should be seen as a more objective review. And that can have real-world consequences on the developer of the game. Basically, you're saying, I did not like this choice that they had for the character. Because of that, I am going to give them a lower score, and said lower score could result in less sales, or them not getting a bonus, or them not being able to make a sequel. Because unless you are a really, really big video game franchise, Bayonetta is not, it only has 2 games, or you were made by a really, really big company that cares fuck all, which, by the way, Platinum Games is not. You would have to be like EA big, or Activision big, or Ubisoft big. You will sell millions of copies just because you are these companies. Platinum is not. That leads down a very dangerous path. You're hurting people because you did not like the character that they created. So, if this continues to be the norm, video games where characters do not meet a certain standard, as opposed to being free to create whatever character in whatever setting people and game designers want, they will have, in effect, a list of pre-approved character types, design types, world types, setting types, etc. that could be used. Otherwise, their game will be hindered through lower reviews because I found this offensive. That is a very dangerous thing. That is most definitely a form of censorship, and I do not in any way want to see that happen. I hope that this was just a one-time thing and they will tone it down after this. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening. I'm starting to see this stuff more and more, and I am a little bit afraid for what is going to happen because it's starting to get worse, and it won't be too long until we are off of the borderline censorship area and into straight up censorship. And I hate censorship. Just wanted to share that with everyone. Tell me your opinion on it. Tell me if I'm dead wrong. Explain to me why I would be wrong on this. I will be happy to engage you, talk with it, discuss it. Because, unlike a lot of these websites, I don't shut my comments off.